And welcome to the LFC Transfer Room, another episode of Transfer Central. And in today's video, joined by James, Jay, and Owen. And we've got plenty to be getting on with. It's been a busy week for the Reds in terms of potential transfer rumours, hotting up with Luis Diaz, and a few outgoings as well, with a bid received anonymously for Nat Phillips. And potential interest in Divock Origi. But I do want to start, first of all, with the Arsenal game being called off. We were meant to be having a watch along around now, actually. But first of all, how is everyone doing? James, how are you?
I'm all right. I tested positive a couple of days ago, but thankfully, double jab, so I seem to be bouncing back pretty quick. The wife's got a bit of a cough today, so she's getting blamed. Sending me out with the rugby lot to get drunk, so I'm blaming her for doing it. But right. Yeah, I'm on the road to recovery. A bit croaky, but yeah, apart from that, I'm all good.
Good. And Jay, how are you doing?
Good, mate. Back in the office this week, though, so reality hit you like a bitch quick.
Yeah, it's amazing what 10 days off does to you. And Owen, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad, mate. Back at school, bit of a nightmare, but gotta get on with it, aren't you? So
exactly. Yeah, we're all pushing through into the new year. But yeah, starting off with obviously the Arsenal game being called off, it doesn't come as a surprise to any of us, does it? But to the wider football world, for some reason, it's been a bit of a controversy. So James, I don't know what your take's been on all of that so far.
I think it's one of those, isn't it, where Jurgen Klopp is a very loud and avid vaxxer, and there are so many fans. I've not seen it in any other walk of life where there's so many anti-vaxxers and people against Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp shouldn't talk about vaccinations because of, for whatever reason. And I think part of it's connected that suddenly we've got a COVID outbreak. We should be more protected than others, but Omicron doesn't work against boosters. Omicron is only defeated by boosters, not two vaccinations, and it's just ripped through us. And if it was any other manager, it was any other club who hadn't been as loud and as avid about vaccinations as Klopp has, I think probably everyone would be like, yeah, all right, don't matter, we'll sort it out. But because it's Klopp, because it's Liverpool, suddenly there's outrage, and we should be putting the two dinner ladies up front and bringing back Harriet and all kinds of things I've seen going out from the transfer room on Twitter.
We had Carriers to start yesterday on the stream as well. Matty particularly was keen on it, as I remember.
Oh yeah, I bet.
And Owen, you're on Twitter as well. You help with the LFC transfer room, don't you? And you must see quite a lot coming through when you're tweeting out news on that.
Oh yeah, it is really tiring sometimes. I can't lie. You look through it and you're just like, these opinions, like obviously everyone's entitled to their own, but some are just very, very negative, and kind of you have to stay away from it sometimes for sure. I think going back to the sort of whole anti-vaxxers and Klopp, I think Klopp's kind of made himself a bit of an easy target there, especially for rival fans who just see it as kind of a way to score points, a way to have a go at him just because he manages their rival team. So I do find it a bit cheap personally. I don't know what you guys think about that, but yeah, that's what my opinion is.
Yeah, Jay, I don't know how much you've seen or heard. I do sometimes happen to catch myself listening to Talk Sport, and there seems to be a bit of an obsession there with whatever Klopp says or does. And I think, yeah, James, you're right. He is sort of outspoken, and that sort of puts him open to fire. So, Jay, what do you make of that whole thing?
I think people just like Liverpool fans biting, and I think on Twitter our fans are known for that probably a lot more than others, to be honest. Like for example, today you're talking about this Diaz transfer. I've seen 5 fake accounts today. Paul Joyce, James Pearce, Sky Sports, and the 2 usual suspects that even Zhekov or whatever he calls himself. So I don't know what it is. I just think all the fan base is a bit obsessed with wanting Liverpool fans up, to be honest.
Yeah.
And a lot of our fans bite, unfortunately, which obviously just makes it a cycle, and they just keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame them, because obviously we all love Klopp and what he sort of stands for, and he's so intertwined with what Liverpool means as a club. So we all want to defend him. But yes, I agree. Sometimes we don't help ourselves in terms of how we make ourselves out to be in terms of taking jokes or whatever. But interestingly, coming off the back of the Arsenal game, and we will get into the transfer talk very soon, to everybody in the chat. Hi Shay, hi Anthony, hi LFC Spectre. Nice to see all of you guys in here. I think it's the FA have come out and said that for the for the FA Cup ties this weekend, Premier League teams absolutely have to put out some sort of team. There's not going to be any postponements. It's either play whatever you've got available, whether that's under 16s or you've just got to forfeit the game. Sounds fair enough to everybody?
No.
Or James,
Absolutely
you disagree?
not. It's ridiculous, isn't it? We're talking about, and people like to say this is the most prestigious cup competition in world football. Everyone watches the FA Cup. Everyone really rates the FA Cup. I'll play your under 12s if you can, because it's bonkers, really, that, you could go, okay, well, we'll do this, we'll do that. We can look at other ways to do it. But what you're going to say is the most prestigious cup. They're pushing us towards a European Super League on the whole premise of they're devaluing their own competition. And it winds me up, because FA Cup's great. FA Cup final days are some of the best days ever. And put out your under 12s, put out your under 16s, put out your under 23s. That's not what the cup's about.
And Jay, were you in agreement with that, or you were about to say something?
Yeah, I don't see how you can have one rule for one competition and then another rule for another. So if you're going to postpone the League Cup game and then the next game's only 2 days later, what big difference are you expecting in terms of numbers? And I think the other thing about it is, if you think about like Shrewsbury fans, they want to be playing against a decent 11. How often do they get to play against the Premier League side? So I think it actually ruins it for the lower sides. I know obviously they'd like to get into the next round, but they'd probably rather see the best players that they can see. So it undermines the competition by saying just play kids, as James has just said then. So no, I completely agree with him, mate. I don't see how you can change the rules for different competitions and undermine it, really.
It's interesting because a lot of people in this discussion have brought up Leyton Orient, because I think they had to forfeit or were dumped out of a game in the earlier rounds of the EFL Cup. So the way they've gotten around that is by saying that, well, because it's a semi-final, we can postpone it, but because it's an earlier round, it's either play or forfeit. So I think that's probably the kind of approach they're going for in the FA Cup as well. And do you think that's a fair way to run a competition, Owen, by having differing rules depending on how late in the competition you are?
No, because the rules aren't stated anywhere. It's not in a book where you open it and you go, oh, well, this is what's going to happen. They're making it up as we're going along. So I don't think it's fair at all. Klopp got absolutely destroyed by the media when he played the kids against Shrewsbury, but I don't know what it was, 2 years ago now. And if he does that again now, do you say the same? Do you say, oh, well, it's his fault? It's not his fault this time around. You can't do absolutely anything about it. It's an absolute joke, I think, in my opinion, how teams can it's not fair, to put it simply. It's not fair. Teams are having to play weakened teams. Teams aren't given the same choice as others. So that's my opinion on it, yeah.
And Anthony making a good point. We played kids against them in the replay and beat them anyway, albeit from an own goal, but a goal's a goal.
Think about it from Shrewsbury's economics point of view. They've been hit by COVID. They've not had anyone through the door. They've not had anything go their way. COVID will have impacted them as a club massively. They've got a home draw against Liverpool. Massive opportunity to put some money back in the thing, not have to make people. And then we're going to turn around and go, now we're just going to play nobody's. And yeah, still a good proportion of Liverpool fans always show up. We always show up. We're not Man City. But
had to get that in there.
Yeah.
Had to. It's, they're going to miss out because they're going to have to do tenner on the door and stuff like that, as opposed to a true FA Cup experience. It's not great for Shrewsbury, just as it's not great for Liverpool.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's Kris or Charlie. We played under 23s last time. This time might be our under 16. So I still fancy us to win, even if that's the case. We'll have a watch long on the channel for the Shrewsbury game anyway. But thank you very much for getting us through that, and thank you for everyone's comments. We will come back to them a little bit later, but I'm keen to get on with what's in the title of this video. And first of all, that is Luis Diaz. Liverpool stepping up their interest, according to some sources, in the 24-year-old Porto winger Luis Diaz, looking for a fee of around £60 million, 70 million euros, I believe. And Owen, just before we came on, you said that you had some things to say about the transfer fee.
Yeah, I definitely think, from what I've heard, that he'd be a good player for us. But for that price tag, there's no way I would say we should go for him. Not at all. There's definitely better alternatives out there for us to go for. Said it last time, Jarrod Bowen. I think you'd probably get him for cheaper. Rafinha, probably the same sort of price. And he's from the Portuguese league. I don't want to keep using this excuse. Oh, he's from a different league, so we shouldn't go for him. But there's proven players out there available or at a fee that is cheaper. And we shouldn't be going for a player who's really hasn't shown a huge amount of goals or kind of, how do I put it, longevity in his career. He's only 24 and he hasn't scored a huge amount of goals for Porto in a relatively easy league, as I say before. So I think there's definitely better options out there for us to go for sure.
And James, well, I hope there's no Luis Diaz fans or hardcores in the chat, because you found an interesting stat comparison just before we came on.
Yeah, we like to sort of have a look at people statistically and see that how they're doing. Matt, he did a great video on it, but when you look at players he's most statistically like, he's matching with Dan James at Leeds this season, which is not great. Not great to be matched with any Leeds player this season. Rafinha is a great player, playing in a terrible team. Dan James is not pulling up trees at Leeds, but his stats are mirroring that, and that's in the Premier League against the Premier League. And for the life of me, I when Owen said, and I don't want to use the Portuguese league as an excuse, I'm trying to think who was the last player from the Portuguese league that came to the Premier League and had a big impact.
Bruno Fernandes. Sorry, I wasn't calling you out. Those literally just came to my mind straight away.
Yeah, I mean, let's take Salah off penalties and have Luis Diaz on him, and we got it sorted, haven't we?
Jay, so £60 million. Do you say, well, yes or no? But also, if it's a no, is that because you don't think he's worth it, or is it more to do with the fact that you absolutely don't think FSG would go out and spend that?
I don't see FSG spending 60 million in Struth. I wouldn't buy too much into the numbers in the Portuguese league. The thing with Klopp and his history of signing forwards, he's very, very rarely got it wrong. Mane, Salah, Aubameyang, Lewandowski, I can't think of any. He's got it wrong with a forward player. So I don't particularly want Jarrod Bowen. I'd like Rafinha out of all the people that I mentioned. I don't dislike Bowen. I just don't want him. But whoever's Klopp's gone with, generally, in a forward position, he's made them into superstars. So if he thinks he can do it with Diaz, I trust him with the forward line. But I probably prefer Rafinha, and I think you get him at a similar price. As far as I know as well, I know it's a different position, and his wages would obviously be probably triple any of these players. I think Haaland's release clause is 64 million next season. So would it not be better waiting that out and even giving that a go? I don't think we will, and I don't think we'll pay the type of wage you'd need and signing on fees, but 60 million is a lot of money. So yeah, I don't think it's a goer.
Well,
I
I
know
have
that is saying
to.
that already, Bowen.
I do
Kris,
have
that,
to
innit?
follow you up on this, otherwise I will be getting questions later. Yeah, if not Bowen, what reasons are there for you that we shouldn't go for him?
I think it's easier to stand out on a West Ham side than it is at a top side, and the jump from West Ham to Liverpool is completely different. He had a decent half a season last season, to be fair to him, and I do like his work rate and stuff. But this is his first proper season, and he is looking good with his assists and things like that. But I prefer Rafinha. I just think he's a better player. To me, it's probably the fancy name over Jared Bowen. But I do prefer Rafinha out the two.
Sorry, can I just say something as well?
Of course.
Where I just saw a comment there from Kris or Charlie, I don't know who it was, but 13 goals in 15 games. But when I saw him play against us, I didn't even notice he was playing. He was absolutely invisible. So I think it's all good saying, oh, yeah, we should get him. But even when he played against us, I didn't even notice him. So I don't really see what the fuss is about, to be honest.
Did you see his
I don't
goal
know. I
against
don't know if
City?
that's the. Oh
No, I
yeah.
didn't.
Oh, have a look. YouTube. Don't
I
get me
don't know
wrong,
if that
anyone.
is the best way to judge a player how they play against us, though, because even though I love the guy, we pretty much bought Minamino off of his performance against us, and he hasn't exactly lit the world on fire. So, yeah, disagree a little bit on that. But so general consensus is we're not too keen on Luis Diaz. Is that we're not too fussed about him, especially for the price tag. If he just putting this out there, if he was 20 million, would you take him over anybody else that we're interested in? Owen?
Yeah, no brainer. 20 mil. It's like, who else are you getting for 20 mil in today's market? It's, yeah, definitely 100%. 20
Do you know
mil.
what thought to be a shout at the minute? Gabagol. I know he was poured into Milan, but I'm sure his price tag's 30 million, which in this day and age isn't really breaking the bank. And I think he's not someone who can demand the first team chance straight off the back. So I think Gabriel Barbo should be a little shout for 30 mil.
There's also we spoke about this in the last one, but we did mention Adama Traore as well. I can't remember what people were saying his value was, if it was like 30 or 40 mil. Just going back to that, because it sort of comes into the same category as a Luis Diaz. Do people on this stream like the idea of Adama Traore? Because personally, I feel like we're setting the bar too low going for somebody like him. I don't know if someone disagrees on that.
I'd agree. He's a counter-attack in specialist, isn't he? Really, that's what his pace is for. And whilst our fast breaks at corners and stuff like that, we've got some really quick players. It doesn't show much else, and I've never really seen him play on the left, always on the right. That might just be the times I've watched Wolves. He feels like he would be a squad player, not a Mane or Salah long-term replacement.
I like that. Yeah, anytime I've watched him, I've been very disappointed. He can dribble with the ball, which fair enough. A lot of our players don't really do that, but once he tries to release it or have a shot, it more times than not is pretty dreadful. But moving on to some potential outbounds, we have an offer, interest in Divock Origi from several Serie A clubs. Do we sell him in January if a suitable bid comes in? What would you classify as suitable?
Suitable for me would be only if Origi wants to go. He's done, we signed him, 10 million was it? 8 years ago?
Yeah, it was very cheap.
In the World Cup. He's scored big goals, big occasions. He's had, 41 minutes of football this season. Club, he's done big moments and big goals, but he's never really been a consistent part. I think if he's happy to sit on the bench and come on and try and score them, I'm happy with that. If he wants to leave and play elsewhere, I'm happy with that. And whatever anyone wants to pay for him, I'm good with. I think he's done his time. He's paid his money back. he can go for me whenever he wants.
So, Jay, where do you stand on Origi? Because I always find myself quite conflicted in that obviously he comes on and will bag us a winner every now and then, but if you give him some consistent starts, he'll ghost the majority of the games he's in. How do you feel about him in general?
It's like James has just said, he scores important goals, but even his cameo roles are once every 10, 15 games. Even his substitute appearances aren't consistent, and there's been times in the past he's been fit and not even made the bench. And that says a lot to me, really. I know Klopp's came out in the past and said he's one of the best finishers he's ever worked with. That can't be true, because if he was, he'd play a lot more games. The one thing I would say is there's no way I'd let Origi go if we didn't sign an attacking player, especially now with the uncertainty with COVID, because then we don't know who you're depending on with COVID is who's going to be out, but one injury and you've got no other front line, especially with AFCON. So I know we'll get nothing for him in January, but what's 7 million to a club like Liverpool, really? So, you know, if we're going to bring someone in, yeah, I'd definitely let him go, but there's no way I'd be letting him go without something coming
in. So, Owen, if this is where we sort of always end up bringing an FSG debate into transfer rumours, but if a bid came in for Origi and Origi said, yeah, okay, that sounds good, I'll go there, do you trust that FSG would sort out a replacement in the same window?
No, I wouldn't trust FSG at all. The thing about Origi, though, that I really just kind of can't really get over is the fact that he's kind of been sitting on the bench, been not even in the squad, as Jay said, and he still hasn't forced a move to leave, which just sounds a bit... He's not very ambitious, and I just don't like that. I want players playing for Liverpool who want to be ambitious. I appreciate you might want to be playing for Liverpool, and that's really good that he wants to be there and in the squad. But at the same time, I want him to be wanting game time and wanting whether that is, whether it's at Liverpool or elsewhere. I don't want him just being at Liverpool for the sake of being at Liverpool. I want him to go and like do the best for his career. So that definitely does frustrate me. But going back to the FSG whole debate, and I don't want to enter this debate because we always know where it goes every single time, and it just divides the fan base, so it's not good. But I think, yeah, we need to bring in a replacement for Origi 100% if he left. If we did let Origi go, you have to look at the 10 mil, 15 mil, who we're realistically bringing in. Like you said, Diaz before, if we could get him in, then great, but that's still going to be hard because he's going to cost a lot more money. So it's really, really difficult, that one.
Well, he's averaged 4 goals per 90 this season, and even if you're not a stats man, that's very difficult to argue with. LFC Spectre with a question: if a swap deal was put in place, maybe for a little bit of money as well, but Origi for Neto from Wolves, is anyone taking that?
Get him for Michael Edwards once he's left. Spectre to me, the fella who said it, coming up with deals like that, we could do with him instead of Edwards.
Yeah.
No, I do like Neto, but I agree with what Owen's just said. If Origi's happy to sit there, let's bear in mind there hasn't been one season Origi sat there. It's been several seasons he's sat there and been happy to sit there. And I think if you look at someone who's the opposite of that with Danny Ings, Danny Ings could have sat there and been like, oh, I'm at Liverpool, I'll get a medal. But he doesn't. He wanted to go out and play. And I admire him for that. And out the two, you'd love to keep Danny Ings. Like, I'd still like Ings now, to be fair. So I think Owen's right there about the altitude type thing and the lack of ambition. I don't know why anyone, especially at his age, is happy to sit on a bench for 3-4 years. It's damning to his character, I think.
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with this, but just sort of playing devil's advocate, I guess. And I'll put this to you, James. Could you argue that a club like Liverpool with a manager like Klopp, he's not a tinkerman by any stretch of the imagination, I feel like he likes to keep a quite regular starting 11. Do you think that sometimes we need players like a Divock Origi who are happy to sit on the bench?
Yes, is the short answer, and I think the fact that Origi's happy to do that, happy to be part of the squad, happy to do his contribution is valuable to us, because it means in certain situations, i.e. a semi-final where we need someone that's going to give their all because they know that this is what they're here to do, that they'll go off and do it. But at the same time, Origi's doing a Gini Wijnaldum, isn't he? 6 months left to go. I'll run it out and I'll get myself one final big contract. And I don't begrudge him that. You know, he's played his part. What, we're talking 13 starts in 5 years. You know, when we won the title, he played 28 matches. He only started 7. I think so far this season, Henderson's completed more minutes than Origi has in his last 5 years.
Bloody hell.
I mean, it's mental, but when you've got a squad full of players, you need some people that know they're not going to play and are okay with it and are good when the moment comes. Because how many in that quality of player who can play 2 games a season, 3 games, 5 games a season, how many are better than Divock Origi?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, actually. Yeah, for if we've got a role on that bench where you're going to play soddle games because you're behind at times 3 of the best attackers in world football, so it's not unrealistic to say you're going to be on the bench 90% of the time. Compare that with anybody else in world football who has that role as well, and I think you struggle to find anyone who's better than Divock Origi. But on the point of his contract and with Wijnaldum as well, does it feel like that's a bit of a worry, considering how good we're meant to be as a financial team, and with Michael Edwards, and we've kept the wage budgets down for quite a while? Does it worry any of you that we're starting to let some players slip into their final 6 to 18 months and then potentially leaving us for free?
Yeah, it's
or Jay, I'll go with you.
We'll get it happening again now anyway, like you've just said. Origi, Wijnaldum, I think Mane's got 18 months. Salah's
the
got
whole
18.
front 3 have got 18 months.
Yeah, and I can guarantee they won't renew all 3. It's arguable whether Naby Keita will get a new contract, because he probably doesn't play enough football to warrant it. Not a pay rise anyway. So to be honest, there's a good few players there that could end up leaving on a free. 2 of the front 3 included in that. And why we haven't already sorted Salah's contract out's beyond me, because there is no way we finish 3rd last season without him. And again, this season, the numbers he's putting up are ridiculous. So why that hasn't been boxed off, I don't know, because it's not as if we've spent big in the transfer market and can't subsidise the difference in the salary. So yeah, it is a bit concerning, because Naby Keita was a big investment, and the chances are we're probably going to lose all of that investment, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely something to worry about and ponder. Owen, do you take Genie back if that was on the table?
Maybe a loan, but I was never, well, in the last couple of seasons for Wijnaldum, I was never a huge fan of him, if I'm being honest, because I felt he kind of made us weaker. He always passed backwards. He was quite a negative influence to that midfield. And although he was mature and kind of slowed the game down a bit, I just didn't think he offered a whole lot to the team. I know quite a lot of people probably disagree with that, but I just think that Wijnaldum, unless we're absolutely desperate, just wouldn't be a choice that we should look at, or a player we should be looking at. I think we should need to move forward and look to the future rather than going back into the past.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Philippe Coutinho. If we could get him dirt cheap and his wages are reduced, then fine. But if he's asking for, you know, what he's getting at Barcelona currently, I'm not particularly interested in getting him back. James, I saw a shake of the head there.
He's had 4 years not playing football.
Yeah.
Does he even know how to play anymore? You know, you're not going to... If you're going to put him on the top earners in this club, you know, even if he takes a 50% wage cut, he's still in the top earners in this club. Nah, he can't come back, surely. I would be flabbergasted if we signed Coutinho. Oh,
Yeah, I don't think Klopp's one of those people to sort of go back to
Strange
dirty
things happen
laundry.
though.
Absolutely. And January, it's only the 6th of January, so who knows what's going to happen. Moving on now to probably the most important part of this video, Nat Phillips. We've received a bid, an anonymous bid from an unnamed Premier League team for £7 million. Who do we think it was? And how disgusting is it that they thought 7 million was enough? Jay.
Nat Phillips.
Oh, honestly.
I don't know who it would be to put a bid in because there's a lot of rumours flying around it's Newcastle. But to be fair, the players they've been linked with have been a bit more ambitious than Nat Phillips, no disrespect to him. Trippier is a very good right back. I don't know why United let that happen when they've got Wan-Bissaka playing right back. I've heard they're going for Luka Dean, who, whether you're a red or a blue, he's a good left back. I don't care what anyone says. And I think they're also linked with Diaz, funny enough, who we're linked with. So I don't think it'll be Newcastle going for Phillips. But I hope, with the price, it's hard to say, innit? Because again, I think he's played 2 games this season. And I think he's done really well last season. But I don't think you can be asking too much money for a player who's had half a season in the Premier League. So I think anything, but I don't think you could really ask for more than 10.
Well, there's rumours that we're looking for 15. I mean, what I would say on that is we managed to get, 20 million for Jordan Ibe? Was it 15
Brad Smith
million
was
for
6
Harry
as well,
Wilson?
wasn't he?
Brad Smith was 6 million. Bloody hell, I forgot about him. So I think 15 million is a good valuation. James, I don't know about you.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because what's his experience? You know, a little bit of a run with Stuttgart and a good second half of the season with Liverpool, where he came in, where we were in a bad shape. I think you're only as valuable as what people are willing to pay for you. And 7 million, yeah, it's an opening offer. I think you can probably load on a few incentives, appearances. You know, if he makes so many appearances, if he does this, if he does that. Yeah, maybe. Man United bid a 7.
Yeah.
Maguire is not good enough. I tell you what, Maguire and Nat Phillips to me are very similar centre backs, and there's not that much in it for me on them. But my guess is West Ham.
But Maguire doesn't turn Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the Champions League. He doesn't do that, I'll tell you.
I'll give you that. But they're about as quick as each other, which is part of the problem why he's not in the Liverpool constant.
Yeah, I mean, for me as a romantic football fan, all I want to see before he goes is Virgil van Dijk partnership with Nat Phillips. I just want to see it once, and then I can die a happy man. If we can get LFC Spectre, thank you for all the comments, everybody. I know I haven't read all of them, but if we can get between 10 to 15 million pounds for Phillips, fantastic business for us, especially Reece Williams coming back from this loan. That's interesting, actually. Does anyone see Reece Williams having a future at this club? Because out of the two, obviously I know he's a lot younger, but he was the much weaker for me in that run. And I think he's probably one of the slowest people I've seen, slower than Maguire and Phillips. For me, we need to try and cash in on him as quickly as possible, really.
Liverpool built on fast centre-backs. Probably out of our top 5 fastest players, 2 of them are centre-backs. You know, when before Van Dijk's ACL and it was Gomez and Van Dijk, people were saying were the 2 quickest in the squad. So the Williams, he's not going to make it for Liverpool, but we should get some good money for him. He's a good defender.
Yeah, I don't know how well he's been doing at Swansea, actually. Shay, would you guys be opposed to 3 at the back? I mean, that uses our... well, we've got 4 Premier League level centre-backs. Purely from how many players we've got standpoint, I would be opposed to having 3 at the back, with 3 out of 4 of our centre-backs being massively injury-prone. But from a tactical point of view, Jay... Didn't look too keen.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go to 3 at the back, because then if one's injured as well, the drop-off's too big. Just dead quick though, sorry, coming back to Reece Williams, he's not even playing at Swansea. He's barely played the game. And if you're talking about someone coming back and having an impact, I think Van den Berg would be 10 times more likely to get into our team than Williams. I don't think Van den Berg will either, but out the two, there's no chance Williams will. He can't even get in the Swansea team.
No, it was. I know the whole thing last season was pure circumstance, but I think there's not many defenders who would look awful behind Fabinho and Thiago ahead of you. So I think he definitely benefited from that. And just what we're going slightly off topic here, but we're having good fun, lots of interaction. Thank you everybody in the comments, Anthony as well. The same issue with Kabak, and I think a lot of us liked the look of him when he first came in, and maybe were a bit aggrieved that we didn't go out and sign him. But I think we've been proved right with his performances for Norwich. And again, he was helped massively by having amazing players in front of him, making his job easier. But I think if you send Van Dijk to Norwich, he still looks like Virgil van Dijk. So no one's aggrieved that we didn't sign him right, and we made the correct decision with him.
Kabak, again, too slow. To be fair, I'd say Matip's too slow, but he's just got it all upstairs, hasn't he? He seems to get himself in the right position, or he's deceptively fast because he's 20 foot tall. But the way how high we're playing now, if the centre backs are not quick, we can get stung. Kabak was not quick enough.
I think there's a reason he ended up at Norwich and no one else as well. No disrespect to Norwich, but
Yeah. Kris is saying Kabak is still Norwich's best player, but that's not saying much, is it?
Cantwell, Max Adams.
What, not Todd Cantwell, who we were linked with about 4 years ago?
Well, he's a better player than Kabak.
I'm still seeing stuff come up about him. People are saying that we're ready to make a move in the summer, and these people aren't reliable, but it plays a lot on my mind. Some of the players that we get linked with, I think we're really setting the bar very low for ourselves. Todd Cantwell, Adama Traore, even though I know that a lot of people on the LFC transfer room really, really like him. I just think if you're going to spend 30, 40 million, just go and get someone brilliant. Don't settle for someone that we're hoping Klopp can get the best out of, because Traore isn't even the best player at Wolves at the moment. He's mainly coming off the bench and being used as how I think he'd be used with us, which is getting the ball, driving forward, keeping it off and fighting off other players. So just going forward in terms of our transfer policy, does anyone disagree with that we should still be looking for people for bargains who Klopp can work some magic with, or are we, with a Premier League and a Champions League in the bag, should we be now looking more towards signing elite level players season in, season out? And I'll let anyone jump in.
I think a mixture of both, really. I don't see any reason why, if there's a bargain go and then you don't pounce on it and go, well, yeah, we'll take that. If he's good enough, then it doesn't matter what the price is, in my opinion. And obviously you get the players like Haaland and Mbappe, however much they're going to cost. And I don't see why we shouldn't go for one of them either, because at the end of the day, we've won now a Champions League and a Premier League, Super Cup, Club World Cup, whatever you want. We could literally win anything we wanted to if we just invested well. So I think we should 100% be setting targets all round, really. There shouldn't be any player who you go, oh, he's just unrealistic for Liverpool, unless he's awful or just like 200 mil, which there aren't any players like that at the minute.
Definitely.
To put and this is what's playing on my mind, is this why like the big players aren't signing for us? Klopp's contract's till 2024, isn't it? And he's starting to build phase 2 of what Liverpool is, Canate and the Diego Jota. But are these big players saying, are you going to be here after this if I sign it? And he's not answering because he wants a break, because he's always said he wanted to take 12 months off. Are we missing out on people and are going to have to bargain basement shop because Klopp needs a break? That's what plays on my mind.
I wouldn't
Surely
have
it's
thought
too
so.
early for that, though, isn't it? Players won't
2
be
years.
thinking that
If
far
you're
ahead.
25 and you're looking at the major phase of your career, it's a pretty big question. Would be for me.
It is, but when you look at the clubs who are involved with it, the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Chelsea, they don't keep their managers. They change their manager every other year as well.
Yeah.
And I think half the problem with it is, Owen's right. When we won the Champions League and the Premier League, we should have backed that up then with a world-class signing each season, because that keeps the standards up then, and it keeps everything fresh, keeps everything going. Klopp had years left on his contract then. So I don't think it's a case of players thinking, oh, Klopp might go. I just don't think Klopp's given the backing to sign them type of players. Realistically, we should be in discussion for any player we want. Liverpool should always be talked about as getting players like that. We've got a better fan base than most clubs. We've got a better coach than most clubs. And our brand now, since Klopp's come, winning the Champions League and the league, I think it's a place top players want to go. But it's whether or not our owners actually give Klopp the green light to go for them. But Owen's right, we should always be in the discussion for the likes of Haaland and Mbappe, because why would you not want to play for Liverpool under Klopp after the seasons where we won the Premier League and the Champions League?
On the other hand, sorry, can I just cut in here? On the other hand, I'm not sure if this is actually true, and I could be totally wrong here, but I've got a funny feeling that Klopp actually might be saying to the owners, you know what, I don't need to spend money. I don't want to have this huge squad like Man City have got. I actually want to just have players like Origi who are going to be happy to be here and not have that problem where players want to leave, players want to be playing, that player morality. So I think Klopp could be kind of part of the problem there, in my opinion.
Ooh, someone better clip that up. Owen said Klopp is
I'm gonna get
part of
abused,
the
aren't I?
problem. That's
Could you
all he
imagine
said.
Lukaku doing that to Klopp, though? Like what Lukaku
Blimey.
did to Tuchel. Could you imagine that happening to Klopp? It just wouldn't happen.
I mean, the thing that I love about our club is that I don't think we've signed anyone who would do that. I don't think.
No.
I think that's a big part of Klopp's makeup with signings, isn't it? He makes sure that a certain character first.
Personality.
Yeah. And the only thing I disagree with there, Owen, about the Klopp thing is, I don't think there's any way last season Klopp said, I don't want a centre-half.
Yeah, I agree.
We're playing Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. There is no way. If FSG have come to him and went, do you want 40 million, 30 million, whatever it may be, getting a decent centre-half, and he's gone, nah, I'll stick with Nat Phillips and Reece Williams. There's no way. I certainly hope not anyway.
Yeah, that would be extremely worrying if that was the case.
It'd be a strange one, wouldn't it, mate?
It would be.
I think I saw it on Twitter. I think someone worked out that if they wanted to, FSG this January could spend close to £300 million without breaking FFP. I have to slightly getting into that, but we will wrap up soon. I do have to question where they're hoping to go. I know they're building us all this infrastructure and what have you, but it's always felt like they were being cheap because at some point they were going to unleash and spend all this money. I have to wonder, does anyone still believe that that's ever actually going to happen? Do we still hold on to, Mbappe 2022 or Haaland 2022? Are we actually going to unleash this vast wealth that we've accumulated?
I blame Mbappe for that, by the way. All the press he was doing with LeBron James talking about how he plays as Liverpool on FIFA, how he met Klopp when he was at Monaco, and what a dick. Because I really believe that. I was devastated when that didn't happen, but it's not, is it? He wants to go to Madrid.
That could have been him saying, come and get me.
Oh, well, maybe, and maybe FSG just went, nah, you can have £112 a week, and the rest
That's what
is
I mean.
incentives.
That might have been Mbappe hinting, saying, look, I'd like to go there, putting the eggs in the basket and seeing if FSG would bite, but they didn't.
And yes, he did, Anthony.
Get him out. I don't care.
Owen said Klopp out. He's about to tweet it on the LFC transfer room as well. Someone stop him. But no, it's been a great little catch up, and I think we've just about gotten through everything that's come up on Twitter and social media this week. So thank you so much to everyone who's been commenting. It's been really great to see everyone having their own little discussions in the live chat as well. But James, Owen, and Jay, thank you very much for joining me on this edition of the LFC Transfer Room. Please make sure, if you're not already, that you subscribe to the channel and also follow us on Twitter at LFC Transfer Room. But from me and the three of us, well, the four of us, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.